So today we are going to northern Thailand and we are trying Khao Soi. So back in July, I went up to New York City because I was in search of some foods from abroad that I really missed. And if you know me, you know that I lived in northern Thailand in a city called Chiang Mai. That is the second largest city in the whole of Thailand. It's in the north. And up there in the north, there is a very famous noodle dish called Khao Soi. It is ubiquitous. There are many restaurants that serve Khao Soi, and there are even some that specialize in Khao Soi as a dish. So I haven't been in Thailand for a year and a half because of this pandemic. So when I got to New York, I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted a Khao Soi, and I just wanted to feel like for a moment I was back in Chiang Mai. So I went looking for a restaurant that served Khao Soi because it's kind of weird that in the United States we have so many Thai restaurants, but they don't serve this really super common dish in the north of Thailand. But I found one. It was actually just across the street from my friend's apartment on the Upper West Side at 107th in Amsterdam. It was called Thai Market. So what is Khao Soi? It is a noodle dish. It is made of egg noodles in a red curry coconut sauce or broth. So the base is this very liquidy coconut milk red curry broth, and then you have soft egg noodles on the bottom and then deep fried crunchy egg noodles on top, and typically it's served with a chicken leg in it. However, it could have a different kind of protein source like beef or pork or probably even tofu. I don't think I've seen it, but if you wanted like say a vegan version of it, I'm sure they would throw tofu in there. And then they've got different garnishes you could put on top, like pickled mustard greens, shallots. You could squeeze lime juice on top, and you could add some chili peppers if you want. And then you have your typical like Thai additions like fish sauce or whatever that you could add. This dish is so popular in northern Thailand. It's like every Thai person has their place that they like to go to for Khao Soi. Everybody does, okay? Personally, I would often go to the mall near my apartment. In the basement there was a lady who just did Khao Soi, and I would go to her because I really liked her Khao Soi. So Khao Soi, because it is a red curry base, is typically a pretty spicy dish. So when you order it, expect it to be spicy, especially if you're in Thailand.
Khao Soi ไม่โอเคเลยไม่เผ็ดมากหน่อยโอเค
If you're in the US or some other country that doesn't tend to eat a ton of spicy food as the regular cuisine, they probably will do a mild version without any spice in it. But if you're in Thailand, even if you say I want it mild or not spicy, still expect it to be spicy, because to them, that is part of what makes the dish delicious. If you were to take the spiciness out, the dish just wouldn't be the dish. Now, I'm going to talk about the version of Khao Soi that is typical in northern Thailand, especially in and around Chiang Mai, because that's where I lived for 2.5 years, and that is the version that I was accustomed to eating. There are other versions of this dish from Myanmar and also northern Laos that are a bit different, or actually pretty different from the version that I was used to eating. But there's still versions of Khao Soi. So it's believed that this dish actually came from Chinese immigrants to that region. So, you know, China's a pretty big country. The southwestern part of China borders Myanmar and Laos at the top. And then Thailand comes in right underneath that. So starting in like the late 1800s through the mid 1900s, there were quite a few immigrants who left that region of China called Yunnan, and then they moved to northern Myanmar and northern Laos. The reasons being a few different ones. Some of them were merchants and they were traveling throughout the region for trading. Sometimes when people do that, they decide to settle wherever they're going or somewhere along the way. That happened, but by and large, the bulk of them left because of political or religious reasons. They were being persecuted against, there were rebellions, and they just had to get out of there. They had to flee. So obviously, because Myanmar and Laos are the closest to that region, that's where they entered in first, and then from there they traveled down and then into northern Thailand. So that is a big part of the reason why there's quite a bit of similarity in the cuisine in this part of the world, because people are traveling through the hills and the mountains. If this is correct, and it's really hard, by the way, to know if it's totally correct, because from what I read, this is like what people believe to be true, but it just seems like nobody actually knows if it's the case. But if it is the case, then this dish, Khao Soi, may have been born out of an immigration story and people settling into a new land and creating a dish that became hugely popular and a staple part of the cuisine. One of the reasons that I really like Khao Soi is because of those soft egg noodles on the bottom with the crunchy egg noodles on top. Number one, I really like egg noodles. I always have, but especially in this region of the world, when you get noodles, they're typically rice noodles, which are a very satisfying noodle and they're very delicate. But egg noodles are, I don't know, they just have even more of a bite to them and they just seem like a heartier noodle. And I like that about this dish for that type of cuisine. Also, to pair it with the crunchy noodles on top, it's like you get this nice mix of textures, soft and crunchy coming together. And personally, I like it when something crunchy starts to get a bit soggy in the broth. I think it's, from a texture perspective, really satisfying. And then you have that smooth flavor from the coconut broth, which still has a kick to it because it's spicy. So there's just so many different things going on in this dish in just the basic components of it. And then you can add, say, the pickled mushroom greens and the lime juice, add a dimension of sour flavor to it, and the mustard greens a little bit of a crunch as well, but a different kind of crunch from the crunchy noodles, right? Like the crunchy noodles kind of have a snap to them, whereas the mustard greens are like a small little like crunch as it's going through. Anyway, these different textures and these different flavor dimensions, I just think make it super satisfying to eat. So let's talk about what I think of Thai markets Khao Soi. I liked it. I thought the flavors were correct. I thought the textures were correct. I thought it included all of the key elements of a Khao Soi that it needed. One thing that was noticeably different was that usually in northern Thailand, when you order a chicken Khao Soi, it comes with a chicken leg. Whereas the Khao Soi I ate in New York at Thai Market had sliced chicken throughout the dish, which makes eating the dish a different kind of experience. So for one, the sliced cut up chicken throughout made it much easier to eat because all I needed was my fork or my chopsticks to pick it out and eat it. Much easier. However, and I don't think Americans would really like dealing with a chicken leg as a whole, because like we're pretty lazy eaters here, you know, and like we don't want to deal with like a giant like drumstick in our food, right? Like we just want it to be easy and not messy. But like when you get a whole chicken leg in your food, first of all, that's dark meat, so it's a different flavor of meat, and then you get the bone, and I think that affects the flavor, overall flavor of the dish. Also, you're not getting chicken throughout the whole experience of eating it. When you eat the chicken in a khao soi, like when you're in Chiang Mai, you're intentionally like going for the chicken because it's on a bone, right? Whereas this one, where it's cut up throughout, it's like you might get some chicken as you're eating, you know. It's just a different experience. I'm sure a lot of Americans would appreciate the way that they do it. I'm just saying it's not as authentic as what I'm used to having. The real thing, like this khao soi at Thai market, it had everything it needed, but it lacked like a certain je ne sais quoi, and I can't really put my finger on it. Like, does it like punch you and hit you like khao soi does? No, it didn't. Like, it was certainly good. If somebody wants to know what khao soi is like, absolutely go there and try it to get a taste for it. But it is not gonna be the same thing as if you flew to Chiang Mai and then ate a khao soi there, which is a typical thing you could say of most dishes from abroad that get recreated here in the United States. Like, close, but there's just something like hard to put your finger on thing missing about it. And that's like what I would take away from this, where it's like, could just be like how they source the ingredients. It could be like the feeling of being in that atmosphere versus being in Chiang Mai and eating it. That is what I was lacking maybe from it. But I also think that if the dish is made just right, it'll transport you. And I can't say that I felt transported by eating this particular khao soi. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you can hit like and then subscribe to get more videos about travel and culture, and of course some food. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.